Myself, I'm 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗹 and I'm happy to share that currently I am selected as a full-time role in Deutsche Bank as a graduate analyst. This is the very first time I'm entering into a women culture, all women, and it was completely new for me. But in every class, there used to be this fighting spirit, like we have to achieve it, we have to achieve it. Then slowly when we entered into second, there were many job openings that I applied for, but after seeing my friends getting selected, slowly towards 2 to ending, we were introduced for smart interviews by our college, where we have to undergo 2 tests. After getting qualified, I was very happy because at least this one platform, and I have to get selected in some top companies and be the same pace with other women in my college. Myself, I'm 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗹, currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering. As in, I'm a person who completely believes I love networking with people, vibe with people, and I'm a tech enthusiastic, which brought me to the background of computer science and engineering. During my schooling, I have 2 elder siblings. So basically, they are from computer science background. So when I was pursuing, I am from St. Anne's. It has ICSE syllabus. So we had one selection naming economics or computer science. That is where I was introduced to Java. From then, my interest, when I saw a pattern printing on the computer screen, that is when my interest started developing. Like, how come something, I am giving some input and it is throwing me output. So the interaction with me and the monitor, then the journey has begun. And my brother is 4 years elder than me. So I could relate, like he started preparing at the same time when I started preparing my Java journey. As such, the same path as my brothers followed, I had to follow. But like all the women in our family were completely biology. All the men were from CSE. So they were forcing me to take biology because one doctor family ke liye it would be helpful as such wise. But my passion was towards engineering. So I'm following my passion path. While learning in smart interviews, sir used to ask us to make some important points wherein this is compulsory, you have to hit it on, you have to keep it in your brain. And at those times, we were like, out of so much of syllabus, why only this point would an interviewer ask? Or we were leaving it. At some point of time, we make a note of it. But later on, after attending first interview, I realized that completely was from that page, that important page. So he said us all like where to use which data structure and about the time constraints and everything as such. So all the concepts which sir taught us, it's completely what I applied from the time when I started entering smart interviews, and that is how I could able to crack interviews. So could tell it like, if not these concepts, the same old brain of using one array and giving the output, ho gaya kaam, that would be my brain. But when learning new concept techniques, something made me different, like made me go with very optimistic way and also different aspect of thinking, wherein the code looks shortened but the output is very fantastic. Sharing my interview experience, when sir asked me to solve simple problem of find the height of the tree. So it was my first interview, so I was completely tense, and in the same way I started with array and as such. But it was a direct question, like it is the main important problem in trees. When sir taught us, it was directly using the data structure, we can directly print the length of the array. That is how I could tell that we can, if not working hard for so much of time, if you could be stable, concentrated for the hours allotted for teaching in smart interview session, we could easily get the thought process of where to use what data structure, and that is how it helped us in interviews as well to directly tell to the interviewer that this data structure can be used to solve this problem, which laid a strong foundation for that interviewer and for us as well. During my interview process, there's much that I have learned. First thing is that I speak out loud, but then I realized that doesn't work in all the cases. And sometimes the interviewer may be frustrated mode, and you pushing him to be happy might not, his happy face wouldn't be in all the cases. So however the interviewer is, your constant mood and the peace mind should be worthful. And the second thing is that not to be overconfident, like in starting of my interviews journey, in the first interview which I faced, I was with the mindset that I trained myself to introduce myself about something which is not in resume. Later, when I realized that I have put it on my resume, it means that I have to strongly speak out on that. So that is the first mistake which I have done. I was with the mindset stating that he already read about me in resume, so I have to tell him something more. But the worst point is that first I have to tell what is in resume because I have completely done it. Then I started improvising, and then communicating over with the interviewer is also worst thing. I felt like not the worst thing, but it something creates an image wherein she is overconfident. And in the experience of interview, the interviewer stated me that you could be some little confident at some places, and some places you lose your confidence. Don't show wherever you lose your confidence. Say the same confident face throughout the interview. So what I felt is that once when we go with peace mind, and that same stable mind has to be for how much of even half an hour or 45 minutes, and not to get down whenever you're not able to get the solution. You need to create a normal conversation with the interviewer wherein he somehow helps us in solving problems and make it go peacefully, not to get frightened, not to make him to create a bad picture of yours. In my interview journey with the company which I got selected, DB, in that we had first round was technical, 3 rounds were technical, and last round was HR round. The first round was completely based upon the OOP principles, wherein the interviewer has completely asked me to, with a programmatic way, represent the principle of OOP. And this is something she wanted to test me in a way like, you have learned all these principles, but how do you implement in code process? How do you get into the corporate world, the theory part that you have learned? And in the second round of my technical thing, I was being interviewed for DSA questions. It covered the topics of trees, and basic trees and not the advanced level trees. He wanted to test me like, do I have the knowledge of all data structures? So he started with simple loops, then array, and everything was completely not direct question. He himself asked me to take a sample example of the current situation, and for that which data structure you are applying to solve the problem. And when I given him a situation like about the early morning daily basis buses or library books, then he came up with a question, on-spot question, stating that this is the situation about this circumstances in the bus area or anywhere. How do you solve it? Which data structure you would use? And why not the other data structure? If I preferred stack, then he questioned me why not queue. In that way, the second round of interview which I have underwent, it covered array list and linked list. In array list, all the lists like linked list and everything, and then trees and stack and queues. And the most importantly they stressed was that difference between all the data structures. Not knowing the top, but knowing it completely, like what is in and out of the data structure. He tested me completely on that. It was about 45 minutes where I could tell he took about 4 to 5 minutes for each data structure, like stack and queue. First he came up with a question. After solving, he asked me why not with this data structure. Then he asked me difference between both the data structures as such. Then the last was of project. In project, he again asked me which concept did you use, which data structure did you use, and why only that data structure, as in programming language. As such, basically what I could tell is that when you're putting it out, I am perfect with this in a resume, it means that you have to know in and out about that particular project or anything, and you have to completely relate with the world and not just the monitor and you, but you have to take it to the outside world and completely relate it with the world and then present it well. In all my interviews journey, I was given an option to question back the interviewer for 5 to 10 minutes. The first question which I asked was the same, like about the interviewer role and how his journey has started. And I've expressed my journey and I've asked him, do you want me to make any changes? I always used to get frightened about if I ask too many questions to the interviewer, will that hit in marking my interview grade? So I used to limit myself and ask him about the role, about what he has to do. And one question which I asked common to all the interviewer was that, as a undergraduate, when I enter into corporate world, what all things we have to change for ourselves? Like, it is not that technology remains constant. So is that in banks they do change, but the technology growth would be slow as compared to the other companies. So I would ask them, like, how, in which phase would the company work and projects which they work on, to build some confidence in me, because some projects which they work on, if they share it, not the completely inner but the outer, what all projects they do, something if it matches with the project somewhere I have done, it really boosts me up. So it promotes me to the next level also with the same enthusiasm. So I would keep it simple and ask the interviewer all little insights about the company and more about myself, like where to improvise, how to improvise, as their journey would be same aligned with me. I used to take many insights from them for 10 to 15 minutes. Before joining Smart Interviews, the situation was, any question I read, I used to read it like story. Like the chief used to come, 5 flowers and everything. I used to create that image of what is happening. But curriculum with Smart Interviews brought us was completely amazing, I could tell it, because starting from basics, like telling important of data in the first class, and it might be sounding very low, but it is a high tag that has to be noticed. Starting from that and slowly developing our skills through loops, through data structures, and that journey has improvised me very much. Pitching from slow pace to high pace brought me so much improvised. And sharing my experience, I could tell that every problem can be solved in some or the other way, either using for loop or using array. Before joining Smart Interviews, my only thought process was get one array, use some logic and print the output in the array. But that array can eat off our CPU memory, and that I didn't knew, like, everything, I'm getting the output, why should I worry about memory? And as such, everyone needs the output. But after joining Smart Interviews, I got to know that not just output is important, the background working, how the memory has to be utilized, to which it has to be utilized, and that all process, and making us understand the 1 byte, how it costs, as such, brought me so much of difference. And learning experience in classes, it was completely, like, while explaining, our mentor has given us with examples of real world. For suppose the same data word, if you take, he said as, will you buy lakhs and lakhs for just one chip? So that is something motivated me to, limit ourselves with time complexity and space complexity, because we are not that billionaires to buy the data. And so that is how the experience was completely fun-filled and more of motivation. To be honest, my experience with Smart Interviews was all 6 whole months was completely technical plus fun-filled sessions, I could tell. And it's not just like not to see like 9 to 4 of technical, but it is something when you involved, you enjoy more. So the more you involve, the more enjoy, the more you learn from it. So I love the way the mentors teach in Smart Interviews, because they know how to pull in a person to the technical knowledge. They don't directly start, this is an array, this is an queue, or this is an stack. They lay a foundation wherein they say the situation, then they bring up the topic, which is something, it really helps the student to relate it, not just blindly reading what is there in textbooks or what is there in net as such. Linking with the real world is something, it makes a person to imagine. And I am happy that in all the situations our mentor has done it, and it really helped me to last long in my brain. Like, as I said in my interviews, I could relate it with the world and saying the situations where to use which data structure. So this, when our mentor said the situation, I promoted the same situations in my interview as well. So this is a situation, we'll use this data structure. That is how I could tell, like, the key point which an interviewer is questioning us. Smart Interviews has given us a wide knowledge about it. Curriculum, everything is pitch perfect. The mentor's teaching way, the interacting way, everything is perfect. I like the Smart Interviews dashboard as well. You know, it promotes. Every evening I go, I watch my rank and I'll be like, my friend is above me, is she studying more than me, I have to do, and then I start sitting and doing it. It's not just something which makes me like getting more into the technical world, like seeing competing, creating a pace of all competing people around the world is something brings me more motivation to do more. And that is something it requires. Like if you see in other, I never observed in any of that, but these dashboards and position and ranking, and the way the Smart Interviews curriculum or in the website or in the problem solving which they give us, they Smart Interviews site, they have given us a solid list of problems, and I can assure you, if a person solves completely all the problems which are there, he can crack any of the interview. The hardness, or starting from the medium pace to the hard pace of each data structure, I would definitely recommend to my juniors or my fellow mates who are currently want to crack any, not just cracking job or as such, any person. I would recommend Smart Interviews because it is something, a platform, not just teaching us or giving us knowledge about data structures and such, but it has given us more knowledge about the outside world. A person coming from a corporate world and teaching us and sharing his experience and sharing over the corporate world is something, as an undergraduate, I would prefer with everyone, because you watch YouTube series stating that this is our job culture and everything as such, but when you see a physical person telling you this happened, is something builds you, boost your motivational spirit. And so I would definitely prefer, there are many reasons, because a person might be aiming for cracking interviews. For them it is pitch perfect, it is recommended. But for others as well, like when they're motivated to start their own business, they have to start from basics. And this is a very best site I could tell, or best company I could tell. Like even though it is a startup, but the layout which they have, the mentors which they have, the trainers which they have, the way they ask us, even the exams that they conduct, it is something like every person has to undergo in undergraduate. After me selecting for Deutsche Bank Graduate Analyst, to be frank, I would never tell I am attending an interview at home, because as a coin has two faces, it may be success or it may be failure. And I am one person as such, I wouldn't love to share my success and failure, even with friends or family. So it was a very low note. I have called them and I've said I got selected, and their response was quite opposite to what I've expected. I thought like they'll be like, okay, but they gave me a high boost on energy, stating that you have achieved a lot more than you have expected and you have a great future to pursue. And they're boosting up me with energy, which not just limiting for this company, but they're open for me to research on more, because I am one such person. I got one thing and I don't want to stick to that one thing, because my parents push me forward, like not to limit with this, what you have achieved. It is the same statement which they told me when I got selected. Now you are under someone and you have to be your own boss, and this is not the end, you have to do more.